Your knees are the thing you notice first. The slow, almost involuntary bend of them as you lower yourself toward the nursery chair. You have been standing for 43 minutes, pacing the floor, and for one suspended second, their breathing finally slows. Their fist uncurls, but they always know before you have finished sitting. Before your weight has fully settled, the cry begins. Not because you did something wrong, not because they are manipulating you, and not because you are raising a child who has somehow learned to outsmart you at 11 weeks old. There's a biological survival calculation happening inside their nervous system at that exact millisecond. One that predates every piece of parenting advice you have ever been given. And understanding it won't just explain the crying. It will completely erase the guilt you feel at 2 a.m. when you are too exhausted to move and too afraid to sit. There is a version of this story that gets told to new parents constantly. In waiting rooms, across dinner tables. In the comments sections of posts written by people who were simply too tired to know what else to do. The story goes like this. If your baby only sleeps when you hold them, only quiets when you walk, only settles when your body is upright and moving, you have created a problem. You have, through tenderness and exhaustion and the completely human instinct to soothe your child, built a dependency. A bad habit. A tiny person who has figured out how to keep you on your feet indefinitely. This story is told with genuine concern, sometimes with love, sometimes with the particular confidence of someone who raised their own children a generation ago, in a time when self-soothing was considered a developmental milestone rather than what the research now shows it actually is. A neurological impossibility for an infant whose prefrontal cortex will not finish developing for another 2 decades. The story is also, biologically, completely wrong. What your baby is doing when they cry the second you sit is not manipulation. It is not a test. It is not a learned behavior designed to inconvenience you. It is a system, an ancient, precisely wired, 3-part survival system, and each layer of it is running, right now, in the body of every infant on Earth. The first layer is the most immediate, and it lives in a structure deep inside your baby's inner ear, called the vestibular system. This is the system that tells the body where it is in space. It registers motion, elevation, direction, and speed. And in infants, researchers have discovered it does something else entirely. Something that was formally documented in a landmark 2013 study by neuroscientist Gianluca Esposito and his colleagues, published in the journal Current Biology. They called it the transport response. When a walking caregiver holds an infant, not standing still, but actively moving, the baby's vestibular system registers a very specific pattern of rhythmic, forward motion. Within seconds, something measurable happens. The infant's heart rate decreases, their limbs go quiet, their muscle tension drops, their crying stops. Not because they are comfortable, not because they feel loved, though they do, but because the vestibular system has sent a signal to the brain that says, we are being carried. We are mobile. We are safe. This response is so hardwired, so involuntary, so universal across infants regardless of culture, temperament, or feeding style, that Esposito's team described it not as a preference but as a reflex. A reflex. Your baby does not choose to calm when you walk. Their nervous system does it for them, automatically, the same way their pupils constrict in light. And now you understand the other half. When your knees begin to bend. When the walking slows to stillness and your weight begins its descent toward the chair, the vestibular input cuts off. The signal that was telling their nervous system we are moving, we are safe, we are mobile, disappears. And in the absence of that signal, the brain does not assume everything is fine. The brain assumes something has changed. And so the alarm sounds. Not because you sat down, because you stopped moving. And in the language of an infant's nervous system, stopping is not rest. Stopping is a question. The second layer goes deeper than the vestibular system. It goes all the way back. Evolutionary biologists who study infant behavior use a framework that is uncomfortable to hear in the context of a quiet nursery at midnight, but that reframes everything once you understand it. They call it the evolved nest, the baseline caregiving environment that the infant brain was literally shaped by over millions of years of human development. For the overwhelming majority of human history, infants were carried constantly. Not in cribs, not in bouncers, not in the careful architecture of a sleep-scheduled bedroom, but against the body of a caregiver who was, by necessity, upright, mobile, and alert, part of a group moving through terrain. Responsive to threat, your baby's brain does not know that you live inside four walls. It does not know that the threat of predators is not a relevant variable in your Tuesday night. It knows only what it was built to know, and what it was built to know is this: a stationary caregiver is a vulnerable caregiver. In the ancestral environment, a caregiver who sat down, who went still, who stopped scanning and moving, was a caregiver who was potentially injured, exhausted, or exposed. And an exposed caregiver meant an exposed infant. The cry that erupts the moment you sit is not a request. It is a command. Stand up, move, signal to me and to everything around us that you are capable, that we are alert, that we can still run. Your baby is not trying to control you. Their primitive brain is trying to keep both of you alive. The behavior that feels, in your worst moments, like defiance, is, at its most fundamental level, loyalty. Your infant is advocating for your survival with the only tool they have. That is not manipulation. That is something else entirely. The third layer is the one that, once understood, tends to silence the room. There is a concept in developmental neuroscience called physiological synchrony. The technical definition is complex, but the translation is not. When your infant is held against your moving body, pressed to your chest, carried in your arms, rocked against your heartbeat, their nervous system is not operating alone. It is borrowing from yours. Your breathing pattern, your heart rate, the rhythmic oscillation of your body as you walk, the warmth radiating through your shirt. These are not just comforts, they are data. Active, continuous, biological data that your baby's still developing nervous system uses to regulate itself, because it cannot yet regulate on its own. An infant's capacity for what neuroscientists call self-regulation, the ability to manage their own emotional and physiological state, is, at birth, essentially zero. The prefrontal cortex, which will one day govern emotional regulation, impulse control, and rational thought, is barely online. It is a blueprint, not a building. And a blueprint cannot regulate a nervous system in crisis. So the infant brain does what evolution designed it to do. It outsources. It synchronizes with the caregiver's body and uses that body as its external regulator. Your calm becomes their calm. Your rhythm becomes their rhythm. Your upright, alert, moving presence becomes the co-regulation that their nervous system cannot yet provide for itself. The moment you sit, the quality of that co-regulation changes. The motion ceases. The input shifts, and the baby's nervous system, which was not yet calm, only borrowed calm, loses the external structure that was holding it together. The cry is not protest. It is a system going offline and asking to be reconnected, not intentionally, not strategically, not with any awareness of what they are asking for or why. Simply, urgently, biologically, asking. So here is what you are not doing when you hold your baby through another hour of walking, another rotation around the kitchen island, another circuit of the hallway you now know by feel in the dark. You are not spoiling them. You are not creating a dependency that will haunt you in 6 months. You are not failing at the business of teaching them to be independent. You are being read, correctly, by a nervous system that was designed to find safety in exactly this: your upright body, your warmth, your motion, your continued presence. You are the biological solution to a biological need. And every time you stand back up, even through the exhaustion, even through the resentment, you are allowed to feel and never have to perform away. You are meeting that need with extraordinary precision. The guilt you carry about this is borrowed too. It came from a culture that decided need was weakness, that comfort was indulgence, and that a baby who cried when put down was a baby with a behavioral problem rather than a nervous system doing exactly what 4 million years of human evolution shaped it to do. You can put it down now. The guilt, not the baby. The guilt. If this is the first time you have heard any of this. The vestibular system, the predator calculation, the borrowed regulation, there is an enormous amount more that the science of infant development has quietly uncovered, and that no one tends to explain without making you feel judged in the process. If you want more of it, the real biology, the actual studies, the things that make the hard nights feel less like failure, and more like something you can understand, subscribing means the next video finds you, instead of you having to go looking for it. Now, for the practical reality of tonight, because understanding the biology does not give you your legs back, and 3 reasons, no matter how clarifying, do not replace sleep. So here are 3 very small adjustments. Not programs, not philosophies, not systems. Just 3 moments of low friction that work with the biology instead of against it. The first, when you feel the need to sit, try a controlled slowdown before the full stop. Instead of moving from walking directly to sitting, reduce your pace gradually. Slower walking, then gentle swaying in place, then stillness. This gives the vestibular system a softer transition rather than an abrupt cutoff, and for many infants it significantly delays the alarm signal. It will not work every time, but it costs you nothing to try. The second, if you need to transfer them to a surface, lead with heat before you lead with distance. Hold them against you, press them to the mattress or the bassinet while you are still leaning over them. Let your warmth and weight stay present for 10 to 15 seconds before you step back. The nervous system is tracking more than motion. It is tracking contact, temperature, and the sound of your breathing. Give it a moment to re-anchor before you remove all 3 at once. The third, say this to yourself, not to them. Before you sit, not after the crying starts. Say it quietly, internally, with the same voice you would use for someone else you loved who was running on nothing and doing their best. This is not a behavior problem. This is a biology problem, and I am the right person to help with it. Not because it changes what happens next, but because the story you tell yourself about what is happening shapes how your nervous system responds to it. A regulated caregiver, even an exhausted one, is a more effective co-regulator than a guilty one. You know what is happening now, and that is not a small thing. The next time your knees begin to bend and the cry finds you before you have fully arrived in the chair, you will remember this. Not all of it, maybe just one piece of it. The transport response, the predator calculation, the borrowed calm. You will remember that the alarm going off in your arms is not evidence that you are doing this wrong. It is evidence that they know, precisely and without error, that you are the one doing this at all.